Next Sunday the Oscars will be on, and as many film fans, I try my best to watch all these films and catch up with it so that I know what's going on when the show's on. So in honour of that, I've decided to watch all 50 nominated films this year and decided to rank each one from worst to best. That's right, all the Best Picture nominees, the international features, the documentaries, the animations, the shorts, and even those annoying ones that only get like one nomination, which means you have to watch them even though you don't really want to. And I'm basically talking about any movie that Diane Warren has been nominated for original song. So today, sit down and listen to me rank each of these movies from worst to best. And before I actually get into that, I know what you might be thinking. Cammy, it feels a little bit unfair putting this list and putting shorts among features, you know, they kind of don't really stand a chance. Yeah, you're right. Starting at number 50, I have I Am Ready, Warden, which follows an inmate on death row leading up to his execution date, as he tries to apologise for his actions to the family that were affected. It didn't really sit well with me, kind of left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. It reminded me of a short that was out maybe a year or two ago, I don't remember the name, I'll put it on the screen. But for me, this is easily the worst nominated film. I just didn't really resonate with it at all, and it didn't make me feel bad for this guy that killed someone. All of my time on this earth I've avoided watching a Tyler Perry directed film, and unfortunately that came to an end as I had to watch this because Diane Warren was nominated for original song, the all-time Oscar loser who's probably not going to win this year as well. What can I say, it's a very generic war film. It tells an important story, but it does it in the most boring ways possible. Tyler Perry clearly doesn't really know how to direct something with that much compassion or enthusiasm or artistic style, so at the end of the day it just becomes a nothing movie, which I, quite frankly, have already forgotten I watched. This one's very strange to talk about. It talks about 3 men who are balding that are going to get a hair transplant, but unfortunately, one of them screws up and only one of them will be getting this hair transplant. It feels very raw and real, but unfortunately, it just doesn't stick the landing for me whatsoever. And although I do appreciate the intention of using stop motion, it's been a big year for stop motion this year, the animation doesn't exactly come across very nice to me. I don't know if that's the intention or not, but I don't think it's a very pretty film. And personally, it's also quite a forgetful one as well. I have put off talking about this movie all year round because the discourse around it is just so irritatingly stupid. But here's Emilia Perez. It's not the worst movie nominated this year. It's definitely not the best either. It has plenty of problems that people are beating to death, and it also has plenty of problems that don't exist that people are just kind of hammering in and jumping on the bandwagon. It's one of those things that when a film like this that's so bad gets so much attention, it eventually bleeds into other groups of people that aren't even affiliated with film who decide that they should voice their opinion on it as well. I have nothing against people voicing their opinions on a film, but I have very strong intention that some people haven't even watched this and are just jumping on the bandwagon, which is just irritating. What's the point? Anyway, it's not great. Zoe Saldana is probably gonna win. I'm fine with that, even if it is category fraud. It's genuinely just a good premise and an interesting story that is done in the worst ways possible. That's all I'll say. Moving on. At 46, we have September 5. If they released this like 10 years ago, it probably would have won Best Picture because it's just so Oscar baity and oh, it's a real story. And of course, it's telling a very important story, but maybe doing it at the wrong point in time with all of the real life conflicts going on right now. For me, it's just forgettable and isn't really going to stand the test of time at all. If you're interested in what happened, just watch Steven Spielberg's Munich. This is another example where I could just tell you to go watch Rocketman because it tells the exact same story but in a more interesting way. It's just a very formulaic and boring documentary about one of the most interesting men in the music industry of all time, but in this case it's just done in the most boring intentions. So for that reason, I kind of just can't really say anything too bold about it because the film itself doesn't do that either. This is another one that pays attention to someone in the music industry that I didn't have any knowledge about beforehand. It's kind of the opposite version of nepotism where it's the daughter making a film about her mother, which is completely fine again. It's not a very interesting documentary. It doesn't tell anything that you couldn't find on like a Wikipedia article with half the time. I've made my thoughts very known about this movie. I think it's fun, the first 40 minutes is fantastic, and then it just goes tits up. The visual effects are stunning, and I love that they did everything practical. If this won, I don't think I would really have any issue with that. People might be surprised to learn that I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes so low down. This is one, they could make millions of these monkey movies and I'd be fine with that. But this one feels incredibly unnecessary to me. It's fine, the Caesar storyline's concluded, and if this is what they're setting up for the future of this franchise, I'm not really all that interested, but I still will probably watch them. This is a very okay animated short. I like it. It's a cute story that genuinely every single person in the world can probably relate to at some point, having your first kiss. And for that reason, I think it's perfectly fine. The only reason it's not higher is because it's fine. If it was on YouTube and recommended to me, that's cool and I would probably watch it, but I don't know what it's doing at the Oscars. This is a live action short which, again, did not strike me as very interesting or original. I remember learning a lot in school about poachers, specifically primary school, and this film really just tells that same stuff that you learn in school. Poachers are bad, and they still exist, and they kill animals and sometimes people. I would say this does a similar thing to Beautiful Men, but in a better way. The animation is still very strange and weird, but it works much better. The story is actually very compelling. It's the story of a child who eats these magic candies and he can talk to different things, talking to his sofa, hearing his dad's thoughts, speaking to his grandma, and even his dog. I actually think it's a very sweet short, and I recommend this one a lot because it's worth the short runtime and it kind of does speak its own existence into being at the Oscars. This is one that really scratches my brain because I don't see what everyone else in the world sees in this movie. I think it's a fine time, an okay movie to watch maybe in the background, or even, I wouldn't go out of my way to rewatch it, but if it was on TV, I would watch it again. It's just something to me that feels incredibly overrated. Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg give great performances, although all the support coming for Culkin is very surprising for me, because I think everyone else in that category does a better job than him, and I think even Eisenberg is a little bit more compelling on screen. I mean, I don't know, I'm out of the loop for this one, and clearly I'm in the minority, so I'll just shut up. I'm not a crazy fan of Inside Out. I think it's an okay Pixar film, as Pixar films go, but this one is again falling into the formula of generic Pixar sequel that we've seen time and time again. They'll get their nomination, but they won't get their win. It kind of sucks because when they do original films, most of the time they're actually pretty good, but unfortunately we're in a day of age where all of their sequels will do significantly better, so who cares? Very surprised Angelina Jolie was overlooked for this one. There is no doubt about it that this is one of the most stunning films of the year that cinematography nominations absolutely deserve. The issue with it is, in comparison to the previous two films in the trilogy with Jackie and Spencer, the story is a lot more lackluster and empty as a whole. Really doesn't feel like there's all that much going on in this, and feels like a first draft of a script that could have been reworked to be a bit more informative on this individual's life. Kind of the same as Inside Out 2 in a weird way, where the film is kind of the exact same as the first one to some degree, and a lot worse at doing all of those things. This is one that I saw and kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt, but then realized, well actually if I'm slandering Alien Romulus for the same thing, why am I praising this one? Paul Mescal is kind of giving the bare minimum, and Denzel Washington is acting circles around everyone else. So I'd say it actually kind of is worth watching for him alone. Of all the documentary features this year, I thought this one was the weakest. It tells a story that I wasn't familiar with, at the same time feels like it's doing the bare minimum in including everything in this story. Obviously, it follows some of the same routes that Nickel Boys does. However, I do recommend checking this one out because it's pretty short and it's pretty informative. Yeah, I had a fun time. I actually don't really have anything to say about this one. This is one that's very weird with me. I enjoyed it a lot, but I don't see everything that everyone else is talking about with it. Specifically, something that really ruins it a lot for me is the inclusion of some of the music choices. Some of them feel so pandering to some degree, and as if they're trying to create like some emotional manipulation. Oh, this part's sad, so you should cry. This part's happy, so you should smile. It just didn't work for me as much as it seems to be working for everyone else. That's completely fine though. The animation is absolutely stunning, so I have no issue with watching this one again. I mean, we get one of these nominated every year. It's about the illegal immigration process and getting your forms set, all the issues of ICE in America. We get one of these every year. There's not much to say. Every year they're fine and they tell the same story and the story is executed fine. This is another one, deals with somewhat similar issues and is actually quite compelling for a short. It's on YouTube for free. I think most of these are on YouTube for free. I would recommend before the Oscars checking a lot of these out because they're very short and you can get through them pretty quickly and they're quite interesting. This is one that I actually connected with quite a little bit. It tells the story of a daughter and her father who has PTSD as the daughter struggles to try and move this beached whale back into the water. I actually think the animation in this one is stunning. It looks flawless, and it's definitely one that deserves all your attention because it's just very sweet and heartbreaking to some extent. This one was pretty decent. I have not all that much to say about it, but I felt like there was more to this and then it just kind of ended. That kind of is probably why it's not so high. tells the story of these artists in Ukraine during all of the unfortunate issues with the Ukraine-Russia war. This is another one that I think is very interesting, especially the animation that occurs within it, but it does include some unique perspectives from individuals living in Ukraine at the time, so I think for that reason alone it's worth your watch. I think this one's really fun. I love these fun little goofy live action shorts. Although there is some serious undertones to it, this is a very quick and easy one, and I recommend this one a lot. It asks a question that we've all asked once in our life: what if we're a robot? That alone is why you should go and check this one out. Probably the hardest film to watch this year for your Oscars death list. This one revolves around a survivor of a school shooting, and yeah, it's about as heartbreaking as you can expect. It does not end morbid or miserable, leaving you with no hope. There is plenty of hope hidden throughout all of this, despite the fact that it is a very upsetting and hopeless story. Very interesting story about jazz in the Congo and the effects that it had on all of the issues that were occurring there in the 60s. This is one for me that could have maybe been a bit shorter, but I will say that it's probably one of the best edited documentaries and films I've seen all year. The fact that it wasn't nominated at the Oscars is kind of ridiculous because it has such unique editing that feels very fun, despite how serious the film actually is. One of my most favourite documentaries of last year. Honestly, I don't want to spoil anything about this one, just check this one out. Some of the most beautiful animation that was displayed last year. Honestly, quite a moving little story about animals on a boat. This is very strange. I honestly thought at the start of last year this was going to do really well at the Oscars, and now it's clearly not going to be like that. I have to say, Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan give two of the best performances of the year. You know, musical biopics are very by the standard, and this one's not really any different, although it does kind of feel like two different films with the way that it's edited and the story is told, but I have no issue with that. I think it's a fine movie. I love Bob Dylan, I love Timothée Chalamet. You put the two together, I love all of it a little bit, kind of. It's okay. What can I say about this that has been beat to a horse? I made my thoughts clear on Wicked a couple months ago. Have my opinions gone up or down? Slightly more down. I'm still very excited for the new film when it comes out later this year, and Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo have some of the best chemistry of the year. It feels like half a movie. It looks very ugly. I still had fun. British animated short about three little characters for a children's show who have to struggle to survive as their creator dies. I think this is my favourite animated short this year. It's fantastic, the story's so original and unique, and it's honestly fucking miserable to watch, but I highly recommend this one. One of the last ones I had to get finished, and I have to say, very, very great. It had such a late release in the UK, and I don't understand why. Although that runtime may look a little bit jarring, especially for an international feature where you're going to be reading subtitles, I don't feel the runtime in this at all, and I think it flows through very perfectly. I recommend this one. It underperformed this year at the Oscars. People will be wondering why in years to come. I think this is a very stunning story, and Clarence Macklin might just give my favourite performance of the entire year. He absolutely owns the screen in this, and you forget anyone else is there. Same goes for Coleman Domingo, he's great too, but Clarence Macklin is really a star in the making in this film that tells us how therapeutic and helpful art can be in the prison system. At 15, I have Incident, which is my favourite documentary short of the year. This is another one that's edited absolutely insanely, taking footage from body cams, real life footage from phones, news footage, and CCTV footage as well, to edit the story of how this person was shot for literally no reason other than cops being cops. It's a very upsetting and intense documentary, and I think out of all the films this year, it's one of them that desperately needs to be seen by everyone. This is a film that I don't want to say anything about. You need to go into this completely blind because you will not expect where it goes or what it's really about until it gets there. So just watch this one as soon as you can. Hey, it's kind of Oscar bait. It's pretty standard, but I had a good time. All the memes that have come with it are very fun. Would I want it to win Best Picture? Absolutely fucking not. This would be another spotlight. I still had a good time and everyone does their best in it. They commit well. I'm happy it's here. This is a stunning little animated film from Australia. It is incredibly bittersweet and sad, but at the end of the day, I recommend this one a lot. It's great to see all three Succession people nominated this year as well. Even though I don't completely agree with one of them, I still think it's great to see all of them there. Well, almost all of them. Of course, I'm from the UK, I'm from Scotland, I love Wallace and Gromit. I'm gonna root for this one all day, every day. This movie's no different from the prior ones. It is just a great time, and I hope they make a million more of these movies in my lifetime. Probably the most surprising film of the year, with just how fantastic this is. It doesn't matter if you're American and you don't know who Robbie Williams is, you should watch it because it looks great, it sounds great, the music's great, and yeah, I might be a Robbie Williams fan now. Another great retelling of this original story from the 1920s. Very happy that it's done somewhat well at the Oscars this year with its nominations, and I think it is a gothic horror classic in the making. In years to come, we will look back on this being one of the best horror movies from this decade. Probably gonna win Best Picture if we're being honest, and I'm not mad about that. I had a fun time with Anora, I love Sean Baker's writing style, I did a video on it praising it, and I highly recommend it. At Dune 7, we have Dune Part. I'm a Dune head through and through. There's nothing I can say about this that hasn't been said a million times by everyone else. Truly a fantastic blockbuster. I don't want a million more of these. I want Denis Villeneuve to make one more and leave it at that, because his direction in these is just absolutely flawless, and he was snubbed heavy this year. Yeah, this is a very tough one to get through because of what's going on over there. It's important, it's real, it's raw, it's upsetting, but it's important to see, just to know what's really going on over there. Sebastian Stan and Adam Pearson have had a hell of a year. They're two fantastic actors in this film, prove why people love them so much. Go and see A Different Man. I saw this the same weekend as Joker, and it's safe to say one of them was much better than the other. The film that everyone's talking about this year, The Brutalist, is that film. It's exactly what everyone describes it as. A monumental movie, and yes, it's long, but it doesn't feel like it. I can't believe how cheap it is. I can't believe how incredible the performances are. You forget that you're really watching a movie. It feels more like a documentary at the end of the day. One of the more late films that I saw, and one of the later ones that I actually even knew existed. As I said last week, the hype for this is all deserved. It is just an important movie and one of the most fantastic created movies this year. I recommend I'm Still Here to literally everyone. Watch Brazilian cinema, it's worth it. They're all pretty great. Fernando Torres is definitely my pick this year. One of the more smaller films this year being nominated, but so bold in its creative choices with its cinematography and the way that the story is being told. At first, it feels a little bit gimmicky, but that eventually wears off when you realize exactly where the story is going. I recommend this one a lot because it feels adventurous to make a movie like this. It's something that we don't see all that much these days. So I'm very thankful for its existence. I'm very thankful I got the opportunity to see it in a sold out cinema, and I'm very thankful that it's getting at least some opportunity to be boosted through the Academy. And finally, at number one of the weirdest movies I've seen in a long time, probably since Titan. Rightfully so, this movie's fucked up, but it's kind of a movie for everyone. Everyone I know that's seen it loved it, my mum loved it. It's so strange to see a film that's been so universally accepted by everyone, when it's so strange and out there, whilst also being accepted by the Academy of all people. The Substance is genuinely like nothing you will see or have seen, and I think it's worth your time. I did a video talking about it. I recommend watching that to get my full thoughts on it. But The Substance is my favourite film nominated this year. So that's it. All 50 movies from this year's Oscars ranked from best to worst. Let me know what your favourites were, and most importantly, let me know who you want to win at this year's Oscars. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you.